very fond greetings to all of you today. To those of you who are visiting, my name is Father Kevin Huber, the administrator here at Queen All Saints, and with our deacon, Mark Weiss, and Father Frank, our associate, we want to welcome you here on behalf of the community. This week, actually today, begins Catholic Schools Week throughout the country. It's a time for Catholic parishes who have schools to really promote and encourage and help people see the value of Catholic education. So I want to share some thoughts with you about Catholic education in light of the gospel that we heard Deacon Mark proclaim. A couple months ago, I needed a pair of blue jeans. So I thought to myself, I gotta go out and get some. So I decided to make a pilgrimage to the Westfield Mall in Maryville. So I'm driving there and I'm thinking about this awesome pair of blue jeans that I want to buy. And I get to the mall and I stop and I go into the store and I'm met by a sales associate and she comes to me and she says, "May I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to buy some blue jeans." And she said, "Sir, come right this way." So she leads me to the back of the store in this huge wall. And she says, "You want some blue jeans?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love some blue jeans." She said, "Well, what kind would you like? Would you like acid wash, stone wash, pre-wash? Would you like button fly, zipper fly, low rise, mid rise, high rise, bootleg, straight leg, or regular cut?" I said, "Man, I just want some blue jeans." And she said, "That's right. Do you want stone wash, acid wash, pre-wash, low rise, high rise, mid rise? Do you want bootleg, a straight leg, or bell bottom and regular cut?" I said, all I could do was stand there. I was completely immobilized by the sheer number of choices that I had. Now this is a challenge that faces us every day. The sheer number of options that we have, the huge selection from which we can choose, the number of choices that we have are amazing. And the truth of the matter is we love options. But we have a difficult time trying to decide what we want. If you consider we have the same problem with education. Do you realize there are 6 different kinds of education that you can have, that you can provide for yourself or for your child or yourself or your child? So you can have Catholic education, public education, charter schools, magnet schools, parochial schools, or homeschool. Those are the options. And no wonder we have a trouble deciding what kind of education we're going to receive or what we're going to offer our children. Do you realize that in the last 10 years, Catholic schools, there's been a clear decline in the number of Catholic schools open in the United States since 2000. 1,200 Catholic schools have closed here in the United States. Just in the Diocese of Gary, 9 Catholic schools have closed. And why? Because of all the options. Which leads us to a very, very important question. And that is, for you who are thinking about your education, for you parents who are thinking about educating your children, for grandparents who are thinking about their grandchildren's education, you've got to ask yourself the question, what kind of education do I want for my child? What kind of education do I want for myself? What kind of education do I want for my grandchild? And strangely, the reading of the Beatitudes from the Gospel of Matthew gives us what we need. Now think about the context in which Matthew shares his Gospel with us. If you flip the page to chapter 4, and you looked at verse 24, Matthew tells us that Jesus is with this huge crowd of people that have gathered from all over Syria. And Matthew he actually describes these people. He refers to them as those who are suffering and racked with pain. He talks about them as those who are possessed and those who are lunatics, those who are lame and those who are sick. And Matthew also tells us that he cured them all. And great crowds surrounded Jesus. And then we flip the page and we go to the first verse of the 5th chapter, and that's where we pick up in our gospel today. Because Jesus, surrounded by this huge crowd,
What does he do? He goes up on a mountain. And this is of particular importance to us because here's the key. When you read the Gospel of Matthew, very, very important things happen on mountaintops in the Gospel of Matthew. Think about this. Where was Jesus transfigured? Do you know? Come on, Pat, don't let me down. That's right, on a mountain. When Jesus suffers and dies, where was he? That's right, on Mount Calvary. Jesus does important things on the mountain. And interestingly enough, Matthew has Jesus situated on a mountain. And this is what he does. He teaches his disciples, and he is also teaching those who are sick, who are suffering, who are possessed, who are suffering from emotional illness. All of these different marginalized people, Jesus is ministering to. He is sharing with them a message. And that's what you and I have to pay attention to. That our Lord is speaking to these people. He is not just teaching them, but he is forming them. He is addressing the deepest longings of their hearts. Because please understand, these folks who were sick and suffering and possessed and lunatics, all of these folks are on the very fringes of society. All these people, they can't take care of themselves. And yet in the middle of that, our Lord comes to them and he shares with them a message of hope. And even more, he gives them a way of life. A way of life that's going to move them through their pain. That's going to move them through their suffering. That's going to draw them into the kingdom. And that's when he says, blessed are the poor of spirit, and blessed are you who mourn, and blessed are you who seek justice, and blessed are you when you've been persecuted for the sake of righteousness. That's the message that Jesus offers those people, that Jesus offers to us. My friends, education is so much more than just transmitting information. It's so more than just sitting down and offering different skills that are going to help you to have a career, or to put food on your table, or keep yourself clothed and housed. And that's the difference with Catholic education. Because the reality is that Catholic education gives you that edge. It enables you to receive not just information, not just a skill set, but indeed a message of hope that allows you, that forms you and shapes the way that you live. That's what it's really all about. I hear all the time that there are reasons why the enrollment in Catholic schools is declining. Because of economic issues, because of tuition issues, because fewer people are practicing their faith, because fewer people Catholics are having fewer children. And that may be true, that may contribute to it. But the bigger issue is that you and I as Catholics have to understand, and we have to acknowledge, what is it that we want from Catholic education, or what do we want from education? Do we just want facts and numbers? Do we just want a skill set? Or do we want a message that shapes and forms us, a message that gives us hope, a way of life that's going to help us to make a contribution, not just for ourselves, but for our world, for our community? Because that's what sets Catholic education apart from public education, from magnet schools, from charter schools, from parochial education, from homeschool. The reality is that we have something that we can offer. And that's why you, as people who are thinking about your education, who are thinking about your children's education, your grandchildren's education, that's why we have to think and give serious consideration to Catholic education. Because it sets us apart. It makes us different. It gives us something that we can share. So the sales associate looked at me and she said, "So, sir, what do you want to do?" And I just looked at her and I said, "I gotta go." So I left. And I walked up to my car and I was completely dejected. And I'm driving home, and I'm thinking, what do I want from a pair of blue jeans? Why is this so hard? So by the time I got home, I went to my room, I got upstairs, I clicked on the internet, and I went to landsend.com. And I'm happy to tell you that within 3 minutes, I was a proud owner of pre-washed, zipper-fly, regular-cut, bootleg jeans. And 2 days later, they were on my doorstep, and I was a happy man. That's all it took. What it took was for me to clearly identify what I wanted. That's the important thing that I needed to do. And my friends, it's the same thing in education. We have to decide what is really important to us. What is really our value? What do we want? Do we want facts? Do we want numbers? Do we want a skill set? Or do we want a way of life that's going to change us, that's going to change our children, that's going to change our grandchildren, that's going to give them something that they can use to change our world?